And our guy Ken Rosenthal, who will be covering this freaking awesome Orioles Rangers series. First off, Ken, how you doing, and what's the vibes like out there?
I'm doing well. I'm at Camden Yards right now, and the vibe is quiet. The quiet before the storm, but at the same time, it's pretty palpable the excitement in the city and the excitement around the Orioles, the excitement that their players themselves are feeling. And it's kind of cool to see a team that hasn't been in the playoffs since 2016, like the Rangers, and here they are.
I love it. So, give us a little more on the matchup. Like, who have you spoken to? What kind of notes have you taken leading up to this one? I mean, basically, give us all of the sideline reports you have planned for the series that we'll see on Fox.
Well, that's not going to happen, Scott, and you know that. But
Yes.
essentially, the biggest question I have is the Orioles and how they will react to their first postseason. They are such a young team. And that's one of the interesting things here. Marcus Semien is a guy who's been around. Corey Seager's a guy who's been around. They've got playoff experience on that team, though they have several young players as well. Where the Orioles are this team where the highest paid player is Kyle Gibson, $10 million. And the Rangers have 7 guys making more than $10 million. Seager at 35 and Semien up there as well. So there's a difference in that respect. But the Orioles all season long have shown this kind of unique resilience. And it's that statistic, 91 straight series without getting swept. That goes back to last year. It's not losing more than 4 straight games. And Brandon Hyde, in his news conference just now, mentioned that when they had that big series against Tampa Bay right here at Camden Yards, 4 games, they lost the first 2. Tampa Bay was chasing them at the time. And then the Orioles won the next 2. And that's the team that they've been really all year. I would expect it's going to be the team that we see in this series. But again, there's that question when a team has not been at this stage of the season.
So let me go on the flip side here. I want to talk about the Rangers. So I was there the other day watching them play. They looked very good. Their pitching staff, it seemed like all they needed was 2 pitchers to come in. Do you see, since they talked about early in the year, their bullpen hasn't been the best. Jordan Montgomery and Nathan Eovaldi, they looked absolutely unbelievable. Do you see them doing that more? Do you see the pitching carrying them as well? They didn't play in front of a raucous crowd either, so it's going to be a different story. What do you see the outcome of the Texas Rangers?
I can't figure out the Rangers, Todd, to be perfectly honest. Because when I saw them in Seattle the final weekend, they lost 3 or 4. They didn't look all that great. And then they had to fly across country to Tampa Bay, right? We thought, they might not survive this. And then they came out and played like they played earlier in the season, got tremendous pitching, including in the bullpen where they've struggled. They had a good offensive series against the great pitching staff in Tampa Bay. They had more extra base hits, 11, than any other team in the wild card round. They hit some home runs, hit a lot of doubles, and that's who they are. They're an offensive team. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Bradish and Rodriguez, the Orioles' first 2 starters, who had great second halves both, will be able to hold them down. And that, to me, is a key. Now, yes, it's also a key that their bullpen, which was better against Tampa Bay, continues at that level. And Jose Leclerc is a guy to watch. He has finally kind of gotten back to himself. He's been a key for them down the stretch. He will continue to be a key for them. Chapman is Chapman. We've seen him up, we've seen him down, especially at this time of year. But I expect they will pitch better. It's just going to be a really interesting series from all of these standpoints, Todd, because I can't really get a feel for who I think is going to win. We'll see how it plays out.
If you don't know who's going to win, who is irreplaceable on both teams? Who is the guy? And I'll give you a hint. Catching is an important position. So go ahead, give your answer.
Well, the Orioles franchise turned around when Adley Rutschman was promoted last May. And would they have gotten there otherwise? Maybe, but we can trace really their improvement to that day. Their record since then is much better than it was before. So he is irreplaceable for them. Gunnar Henderson is a great player, but not in terms of value what Rutschman is to that team. The Rangers, it's funny because we've seen them lose Jonah Heim, their catcher. We've seen them lose Corey Seager twice. We've seen them lose Jacob deGrom. And yet they have figured out ways to keep going. So I don't know that there is an irreplaceable player on that team. The one constant is Semien. He has played a lot of games in recent years. He is a very durable guy, a very consistent, steady player, and a good player. So I don't know that I can name one on the Rangers because they've survived injuries to Young, to Heim, to Seager, to Grom, all of these different players, and they've continued playing at a high level.
It is incredible that you look at this team and say, yeah, DeGrom essentially didn't pitch for them this year. He's been on the IL the whole year. And then when they pick up Scherzer now, he's been hurt for a bit. My question to you is going to take us in a different direction, but it's related to what I just said. Is there now an IL and then a phantom IL that we should officially designate, since our guys have been talking about it on the show all year? One of those clips actually went viral with AJ requesting an anal fissure IL stint that was denied by the Braves. But what is your take on the Billy Eppler investigation and resignation from the Mets after it seemed like he was going to be there, at least in the short term?
My take is I want to hear more because I'm not buying that this is simply about IL placements. David Stearns came in. The plan was for Billy Eppler to remain. That was Cohen's plan. It was Epler's plan. It was Stearns' plan. Stearns spoke highly of him just a few days ago at his news conference. I don't know what happened in the interim, and maybe this investigation that baseball is conducting is more serious than at least so far has been reported. But if we were going to fire general managers for phony IL placements, there might be 30 openings right now because this does happen. It's not that unusual where you see borderline IL placements. Now you have to have a doctor's certification and all of that. But as a manager of a team told me yesterday, you can go and look at daily medical reports for any team on any day and probably put 30 guys on the IL because everybody's always got something. So I, again, want to hear more here, want to find out more because it just seems to me we're not getting the entire story.
Has there ever been an investigation where it's MLB on MLB crime? Like, are the owners actually going to investigate themselves in this situation, essentially? Because it's not a player thing that they're investigating.
Yeah, Eric, I can't think off the top of my head anything like that in particular, but I'm sure this kind of thing has happened. It's happened before, where teams have gotten caught doing things. I'll give you a couple of examples. San Diego with the international stuff, Atlanta with the international stuff, Boston with the international stuff. So yes, MLB on MLB crime does happen, and when something untoward happens, people scream. I'll give you even the best example. Houston Astros, sign stealing, electronically, illegally. They were punished by MLB.
Do you think, this is, for players' purposes, like for me, do you think players see this and they're like, man, if this is my only option, I'll go to the Mets? Or are they like second guessing, like, honestly, like it's a shit show here, man. What should I do? Should I even think about dabbling? Like free agency, there's guys that are out there to go, but they see all this crap going on. You know what I mean?
Todd, my feeling in free agency, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, guys go where the money is. And if they get the best contract from the Mets, if it's $2 million more than, I don't know, the Red Sox are offering, they're going to go to the Mets. Now, if you have all things equal and you can make a choice, sure, that the chaos that we're seeing here, I don't know that I call it chaos, but the disarray that we're seeing might come into play. But overall, man, the Angels are as dysfunctional as anyone right now, right? The Padres seem dysfunctional too. If they sign a free agent because they're paying them the most money, then they're going to sign a free agent. That's how this generally works.
One more on the front office front. Ken, I know you've been busy, did you happen to catch the press conference put together by Mr. Jerry Dipoto soon after we heard those comments from Cal Raleigh about the Mariners not spending like they should be in the American League West? I am still confused and feel a lack of confidence based on the, what was it, 54 or 56? 54%?
54%.
54%.
87 wins.
And, kind of bowing down to them for allowing Mariners fans to go through a little bit more losing before the winning.
I didn't see the press conference. I certainly read about it. And I even wrote a little bit about it in my column today. Jerry Dipoto, what he's saying, surely by the math, he's right. You want to win 54% of your games over a long period of time and put yourself in the best chance to reach the postseason, then you will be in position to win the World Series. But it's the tone and it's the idea that a fan base that has never experienced a World Series title is being told, you should thank us for being patient and going about it this way because, hey, we're doing it for you. We're doing the right thing. Jerry Dipoto has been to one postseason in 8 years. And the patience level there is running short among fans, certain fans. I can understand that. And while his comments were not well put, in my opinion, the math, yes, I get that. But, man, it just seemed like there's a disconnect there. A disconnect between what fans are feeling, between what his own players are feeling. I'm referring to Cal Raleigh, and where they're going. And the other thing about this is that's an ownership that has spent on extensions. They signed Castillo to an extension. They even signed Robbie Ray in free agency. They haven't gone big in free agency. And what Cal Raleigh was talking about was the Rangers, the team that they're playing. They've spent like $800 million on free agents in the last 2 or 3 years. When you lose out to that team in the end, which is what happened with the Mariners, as a player, you're going to want more. And that's not an unreasonable feeling for Cal Raleigh, not an unreasonable feeling for Mariners fans. So that's kind of my reaction to it. I thought the remarks were unfortunate.
You talk to a lot of GMs or sources that are in front offices. Do a lot of them talk this way? Do they talk in a, to me, it feels like a mitigating type of, well, you know what, like, we're just going to try our best, instead of, as a player, you sit there and you go, I'm giving up years of my life. I'm playing pain, through pain for this to make the playoffs. Do a lot of GMs talk this way? The way that Jerry did, actually out in the open?
I was going to say, Eric, not so much openly, but as my colleague Evan Drellick at The Athletic wrote the other day, there is a sustainability fetish in this sport. And you hear it from a number of executives, presidents of baseball operations, general managers. They talk about sustainability and building a sustained contender. Chaim Bloom talked about that a lot in Boston. And that's fine. And there's a friend of mine, John Lowe. He is now a writer who has been honored by the Hall of Fame as the BBWAA Career Excellence winner. And he used to tell me, you try to win a World Series every year, you don't win a World Series any year. And I understand what he's saying there. But there is an in-between area where you are trying to win a World Series while still trying to be sustainable. And it seems to me too many teams take the easy path, occupy their sustainability fetish, and don't really take the necessary steps toward that final goal. And we all know, guys, the postseason is a crapshoot. And there is a randomness, a luck involved. You get hot, you're not, whatever. But what do fans want? I go back to Evan's column the other day. This is entertainment, man. This is drama. This is what people pay for. They pay to see their teams try as hard as they possibly can. And when those teams don't do that and then make excuses, it doesn't sit well.
Last one from me, Ken. We talk about analytics all the time. Some people think it's helping the game. Some people think it's too much. In my opinion, I like analytics, like you wrote. It enlightens the player. It shows some things about them, what they need to know. But I think sometimes we take that too literal as well. So, I mean, for example, for me, I was having a great year. I was in my last 20 bats, I was batting 500. Next thing you know, I didn't play the next day because I was not hitting so well against the pitcher. When you're hot, you're hot. You leave the guy in my opinion. So my question to you is the Barrios situation kind of felt like it was predetermined. He was only going to throw 3 innings. The guy's facing his team that he played for a lot of years. They don't take that in consideration. They already had it predetermined. He had a really good 3 innings. Things change. I changed things in my 9-year-old baseball league. I mean, that's what happens. That's part of baseball. It's part of life. Why do you predetermine those things when a guy is actually doing really well? You can change, right? Now, why is it always got to be analytical?
Well, I heard Tim Kirkjian on the show yesterday, and I could not put it any better than Tim did. And what Tim was asking people to do generally, teams to do, was to watch the game, react to the game, not predetermine and overscript and those kinds of things. Now, I talked with someone today who said what the Jays actually were trying to do was use Kikuchi at some point in that game to turn the lineup around, right? To force the pinch hitters against the left-handed hitters, get the left-handed hitters out of the game, make them more right-handed for the right-handed arms in their bullpen. That was the plan. It wasn't that it was going to be 3 innings. I don't know that I believe that entirely, but at the same time, even that idea, I had someone point this out to me this morning, someone else in baseball, that Kikuchi, he's not a guy that comes in dirty innings. He's a starting pitcher. When I say dirty innings, I mean with runners on base. So why not put a left-handed reliever in that spot? Have him get out of the inning, and then you've got Kikuchi later. There are all kinds of ways we can debate this, but the essence of what I wrote today is simply that the game should determine what is going on, not the numbers. And you use the numbers. We all want the information. The information is amazing. We know more today about performance and player performance than we've ever known. And players appreciate it in many ways because they use the technology, they use the data to get better. Brent Rooker had a Twitter thread about that this week. It was really thoughtful and well said by him. There has to be a balance, and teams talk about balance. Oh, yes, we balance everything, the subjective and the objective. They don't act like they balance it. They generally, not all, some, go one way, and that's where the problem comes in. There has to be feel for what is going on in the field. That was what I wrote today. My first 3 words today: bring back feel.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm worried, like, especially John Schneider. I mean, I don't know him super well, but probably going over that with a bunch of people. And if he just decided, screw it, I'm going to leave Barrios in, and he gives up a 2-run homer, they might fire him in the offseason, because clearly it's not just him making that call.
Right, and we don't know exactly who is making the decision. I got a text from somebody this morning saying, hey, the next time something like this happens, put the guy who recommended that and was really responsible for that action, the lifting of Barrios, put him up in the press conference and not Schneider. Schneider, like all managers, has to be the spokesman, has to take the hit. We all know that's not necessarily fair.
And now we can switch them back, by the way, to Paper Tigers again, because they went from Paper Tigers to Blue Jays. Back to Paper Tigers if you've been following
We offered them
some
the
articles.
chance to change our minds, to prove me wrong, and didn't really happen.
Ken, big question. Your boy Tim brought something up, and I honestly had no idea. Can I call you Junior, or is this just a Tim Kirkchin thing? Because the way he said he calls you Junior, and the way he smiled about it, and the way you're smiling about it, it makes me feel like I'm on the outside looking in, and I just want to know where our friendship is.
No, our friendship's good. So when I started at the Baltimore Evening Sun, may it rest in peace, in 1987, I was 24 years old. Tim was probably about 30. Richard Justice was on the beat as well. He maybe was a little older than both of us. I was quite young, quite green. If you want to use the word clueless, that would probably be fitting too. And they called me Junior for a couple of reasons. One, because I was so young. And also, there was, at that time, maybe a slight resemblance between me and Cal Ripken Jr. Not in the physical frame, but maybe facially. And Cal Ripken Sr. was the manager at the time. Cal Ripken Sr. was one of the most grizzled guys ever. I loved him. He was really very fair with me and patient with me. And I always wanted to say, hey, Cal, everybody says I look like Junior. Maybe you're my dad. But I never had the guts to say it. That's why people call me Junior. And it's people who I worked with back then. I competed against him. He crushed me every single day. And yes, even today, some people call me that. People who knew me back in the late 80s.
That's good.
That is really good.
That is great.
I know we got to go. Does Bill Ripken know that story?
Oh, the story about me wanting to ask his dad that? No.
Yeah.
I've never told Bill that either.
He'd probably
I've
like
told
that.
Cal that. He
Yeah.
probably would like that. But I mean, I could imagine if I had asked Cal Ripken Sr., he would have taken one look at me. He knows I didn't play past like T-ball. And he would have said, you would not have been my son.
That's great.
So,
I love you, Dad.
All right. Well, on that note, Junior, thank you. Have a great series, and we'll see you next week, Tuesday, on Fair Territory, right?
yes, it'd be Tuesday this week due to travel arrangements.
Yes. Awesome. Can't wait. Ken, thank you so much. Ken Rosenthal from FT, Foul and Fair Territory, and you'll see him this weekend on Fox. Be right back.